Alright, today we're talking about the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite card. If you've ever dreamed of flying to Europe for less while earning travel rewards on your everyday spending, this card might look like a no-brainer. It's got airline perks, a flashy welcome bonus, and it earns one of the most talked about travel currencies out there, which is British Airways Avios. But there's more going on here than meets the eye, and not all of it works in your favor. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through my core 4 metrics, which are the key numbers I use to compare credit cards side by side, so you'll know exactly how valuable this card is, both in the short term and in the long term. I'll also break down the most important features so you can decide if it's really the right fit for you or if there are better options out there. By the way, I'm Jordan, and between this YouTube channel and my website, I've helped hundreds of thousands of Canadians save hundreds of millions of dollars just by using credit cards. So let's get into it. So the first component of the core 4 is the welcome bonus multiple, which measures how strong the welcome bonus is. And in this case, the welcome bonus on the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite is 60,000 British Airways Avios. And so if you look at this points valuation chart, you'll see that British Airways Avios are worth 2 cents a point, which means that the welcome bonus here is worth $1,200. But you can't just look at the welcome bonus on its own. You also have to weigh it against the cost of the card. And so the annual fee here is $165, and when you divide the $1,200 bonus value by that annual fee, you get a welcome bonus multiple of 7.3. So that's more than 7 times the cost of the card, which is well above my benchmark of 2, which makes this a genuinely strong first year bonus. Now, that 60,000 Avios welcome bonus is delivered in 3 parts. First, you get 15,000 Avios just for being approved for the card. Then, if you spend $6,000 in your first 3 months, you'll unlock another 35,000 Avios, which gives you 50,000 points in your first year. And finally, on your 1-year anniversary, you'll receive an extra 10,000 Avios as a loyalty bonus. So while the bonus is strong on paper, the spending requirement is a little high, and part of the value is locked behind a long timeline. Now, the second piece of the core 4 is return on spending, which measures how strong the card's earn rates are. And so the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite earns 3 Avios points per dollar on British Airways purchases, 2 Avios points per dollar on dining and food delivery purchases, and 1 Avios per dollar on everything else. That's it, just 3 earning categories, which is kind of limited for a premium travel card. Now, in order to compare different cards side by side, I like to look specifically at these 5 core categories of earn rates. And as you can see, this is what the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite earns in these 5 categories. But in order to put these earn rates in context, we also need to look at some sample spending. And so this is the spending profile that I use for every credit card to see how the card stacks up. It may not match your spending exactly, but it is based loosely on average spending data from Stats Canada, rounded a bit to make the numbers easier to work with. To be clear, this only includes credit card spending, so the one big expense that won't be included here will be either your rent or your mortgage. But with all that in mind, if you multiply the earn rates by the monthly spending numbers, you end up earning 2,250 points every month. And because each point is worth 2 cents, the total value you get back from your monthly spending on the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite card is $45. That means you're earning a 2.3% return on your $2,000 in monthly spending. And my benchmark here is 3%, so this card falls short of where I'd like to see it. And the problem is that you only get enhanced earning on dining, and unless you're regularly booking British Airways flights, then you're stuck earning just 1 Avios per dollar on most of your spending, which isn't particularly exciting for a card with a $165 annual fee. Now, before I share the third and fourth components of the core 4, I want to first talk about the features and benefits of the card because you'll understand everything else better this way. So let's start with the travel perks, and there are really 2 big ones here. First is the 10% discount on British Airways flights, which sounds great on paper and can actually be valuable if you know how to use it properly. Because the discount applies to round-trip flights that start and end in Canada, and it includes all fare classes, even business and first, as long as the flights are operated by British Airways. But here's where a lot of people get tripped up. The discount only applies if you book through a specific page and log in using your British Airways Executive Club account. And then during checkout, you also need to manually enter the promo code CARDOFFERC on the price quote page. If you miss any of those steps, then you won't get the discount even if you use your card. Also, the discount doesn't apply to codeshare flights or partner airlines, and all travel needs to be completed by December 15th, 2026. So yes, if you're booking something like a $2,000 flight to London, then you can save $200 right away, which more than covers the annual fee. But this perk only benefits you if you're flying British Airways and if you remember to follow the exact booking process. So if you're more of a casual or flexible traveler, then it might be harder to take full advantage of this. But the second major travel perk is the annual companion voucher, which you earn when you spend $30,000 on the card in a single calendar year. And this voucher lets you either bring a companion for free on your award flights or use it solo for a 50% 20% discount on the Avios required for your ticket. Now, this can provide substantial value for you, but there are two issues. First, you need to spend $30,000 to unlock it, which is $2,500 a month, and that's a lot of spending for most people. And then second, even with the companion voucher, you still have to pay all the taxes, fees, and carrier charges for both passengers, which on British Airways long-haul flights can easily be $600 or more per person. So while the voucher sounds pretty impressive, the actual savings might be less than you expect. Now, one thing that makes this card somewhat unique is the fact that it's the only British Airways co-branded credit card available in Canada. So if you specifically want to earn Avios directly without having to transfer points from other programs, then this is your only option. Now, like most Visa Infinite cards, you also get access to some additional perks. Things like hotel benefits, wine and dining experiences, travel discounts, and a concierge service. But unless you're actively looking to use those perks, they're not really going to add that much value. And it's worth noting that nothing here is exclusive to this card. You do get a complimentary 12-month Dash Pass subscription from DoorDash, which waives delivery fees and reduces service fees on eligible orders. That's worth up to $120, but only if you use DoorDash regularly. And after 12 months, you'll be automatically charged for that unless you cancel. Then there's also a partnership with Petro-Canada, where you link your RBC card and you'll save 3 cents per liter on fuel and earn 20% more Petro points. So that happens automatically once the cards are linked, and it applies every time you pay with your card at the pump, which offers small but consistent savings if you fill up often. But now I want to return to the core four and share the third and fourth components with you. The third component is time to break even, which measures how long it takes the average person to break even with the card. And the reason I look at this specifically is because you want to be able to recoup the investment you make in the card as fast as possible. And so specifically, time to break even measures how many weeks of regular spending it takes to pay off the annual fee. And since we already said you're getting $45 in value every month, that means that the time to break even on the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite is 16 weeks, which is actually pretty good. For context, the benchmark here is 26 weeks or half a year, so this card clears that hurdle easily. And the final piece of the core four is the long-term value multiple, which is a measure of how much you get from the card year after year without including annual credits or benefits. Because you don't just want a card that rewards you in the first year, you want a card that you can keep as long as possible. And so the net value is your monthly earnings, which I already said is $45, multiplied by 12, and then less the annual fee. So for this card, that comes out to $375. And ideally, you want the net value per year to be at least double the annual fee, so it performs decently well here with a long-term value multiple of 2.3. So if we look at all four of these metrics together, you can see that the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite has a welcome bonus multiple of 7.3, which is way above the benchmark of 2, so that's a win. Then we've got return on spending, which comes in at 2.3%. That's below the 3% benchmark that I use, so it doesn't pass this one. Time to break even is 16 weeks, which clears the 26-week benchmark easily. And finally, the long-term value multiple is 2.3, meaning you're getting more than twice the annual fee back in value every year, which passes the benchmark of 2. So overall, it hits 3 out of 4 targets. Strong welcome bonus, good long-term value, but a weaker earn rate, especially if you're not spending a lot on dining or British Airways flights. So you already know the annual fee is $165, but you also need to know that the minimum personal income is $60,000 or $100,000 in household income just to qualify for this card. But the good news is, if you have an RBC VIP banking account, you can get up to $120 of the annual fee rebated, which makes the card a lot more attractive. Now, if I had to pick the top 3 features of this card, they'd be first, the 10% discount on British Airways flights, which can provide some significant savings if you actually fly with British Airways regularly. Second, the solid welcome bonus of 60,000 Avios points, even though it's spread across 12 or more months. And third, the fact that this is the only way to earn Avios directly in Canada without transferring points from other programs. But with all that said, this card is designed for a pretty specific type of person, and outside of that niche, it's a bit of a hard sell. It's good if you regularly fly with British Airways, because maybe you're taking an annual trip to London or Europe, and you prefer to fly with BA. It's also good if you're someone who values having a stockpile of Avios for One World partner redemptions, particularly for business class flights to Asia, or for premium cabin upgrades. But on the other hand, it's not the best for most Canadians. If you don't fly British Airways specifically, then the 10% discount becomes irrelevant. And if you can't hit that $30,000 spending threshold in the first year, then you miss out on the companion voucher entirely. And if you're just looking for general travel rewards, then there are cards that offer much better earn rates on your everyday spending. But here's why I don't love this card. It's just too limiting for most people. You're paying a $165 annual fee for a card that essentially gives you 1 Avios per dollar on most of your spending, with only dining getting an enhanced rate of 2 Avios per dollar. And when you compare that to other cards, which give you double or even triple the value per dollar spent, this card really starts to pale in comparison. comparison. The welcome bonus is decent, but you have to spend $6,000 in the first 3 months to get it, and you don't get the final piece of it until after 12 months. And unless you're specifically committed to flying British Airways, most of the card's unique perks become a little irrelevant. The companion voucher sounds great, but requiring $30,000 in spending puts it out of reach for most cardholders. And even if you do earn it, you're still paying hundreds of dollars in taxes and fees. At the same time, the 10% flight discount is nice, but it only applies to BA. So if British Airways doesn't fly where you're going, or if their schedules don't work for you, then this perk also provides zero value. And let's be honest, most Canadians aren't flying British Airways multiple times a year. And on top of all this, there are a few details here that are easy to miss, but they definitely matter. And so at this point, you've seen exactly what the RBC British Airways Visa Infinite has to offer, and also where the card falls short. For the right traveler, it can deliver solid value. If you frequently fly with BA, know how to maximize your Avios points, and you can hit the $30,000 spend for the companion voucher, then this card can absolutely work in your favor. But for most Canadians, it's not the most practical fit. The earn rates are limited, the perks are tied to BA, and the costs, even on your free rewards, can still add up quickly. So there's just too much fine print, too many restrictions, and not enough flexibility to make this a strong all-around card. Fortunately, there are better cards out there with higher earn rates, easier redemptions, and perks that actually match how most people travel. So if you want to see which cards deliver real value and how they stack up against the metrics we covered today, watch this video next.